Hello, my name is Aiden Lowry, and this is my analysis on the case study in Chapter 4. The case. Julio Ramirez was contacted by the Metro School District to provide an outside advisory on a selection of students into a workshop, as the selection of said students had led to some complaints by parents. The Leadership Forum is a professional group made of community business leaders who had agreed to sponsor 100 boys and 100 girls to participate in a 2-day peer leadership workshop. The workshop was designed to encourage students to assume peer leadership roles at school, and it was open to all students in the 11-year age group, or all children who would be 11 years of age between January 1st and December 31st of the current year. Almost all the students selected were in grade 6. Based on class size, each teacher was asked to select a specified number of students to attend the workshop. A few parents whose children were not chosen asked for information about the leadership program and were provided the following by the Metro School District. There are 1,000 boys and 1,000 girls in the age-appropriate category throughout the school district. Since 100 boys and 100 girls were selected for the workshop, 900 boys and 900 girls were not chosen by the teacher, as observed in the table in the next slide. For the 100 boys and 100 girls selected for the program, a greater percentage of children are born earlier in the year, in the January to March and April to June quartiles. In other words, of the 100 boys selected for the workshop, 44 are born between January to March, but only 5 are born in the October-December quarter. Similarly, 41 girls from the January to March quartile were chosen compared to only 7 girls born on the October-December category. When we examine the breakdown of birthdays for all the children, 1,000 boys and 1,000 girls, it is about the same across all 4 quartiles presented on the next slide. That is, about 25% of girls and 25% of boys were born in each of the 4 quartiles. This table shows the percentages and actual numbers of the quartiles for the 100 boys and 100 girls selected for the program. Some research on education, sports, and other academics in Canada and other countries across various age groups have shown a trend of favoring the older children within the age group when selecting participants for academic and sports activities. We will get back to that later. Several of the parents that reviewed the data complained that the Metro School District was discriminating against younger children, those born later in the year, when selecting participants for the peer leadership workshop because so few of the children were selected from the later month quartiles. Julio was told there was no evidence indicating that the teachers knew the birthdays of their children when selecting them for the peer leadership program. Interviews with teachers confirmed selection was made based on each teacher's overall assessment of each child. So here are some key details from the case that will help with analysis. The teachers of the Metro School District were the decision makers as to which student was selected. This includes any student from the appropriate age category from any school and within several grades. Teachers were asked to select a certain number of students based off of class size. Teachers reported their selections were based off of overall assessments of every student. Parents have claimed discrimination against students born in later months, thus triggering an HR investigation. As seen in the table previous, there is a significantly smaller percentage of students born in later months. This makes it harder to prove teachers were not intentionally just choosing older children, as there are a much larger pool of students to choose from the older month quartiles. The relative age effect. Wikipedia describes the relative age effect as a bias, evident in the upper echelons of youth, sport, and academia, where participation is higher amongst those born earlier in the relevant section period than would be expected from the distribution of births. It is a worldwide phenomenon that explains why children born in earlier months tend to perform higher or are chosen more often in sports rather than their younger counterparts. It can be seen in academics and other organizations, not just sports. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to assume this case took place within Ontario, my home province. The Ontario Human Rights Code protects people from discrimination under the grounds of age. The code defines age as 18 years or older. This means people cannot discriminate against you because of your age, where you work or live, or when providing services. For those under 18 years of age, there is no such protection concerning employment or providing services. This includes academics and sport. As the law in Ontario currently stands, children and youth under the age of 18 are not protected from age-based discrimination. This is because the definition of age is an age that is 18 years or more. The law means that people under 18 cannot succeed in making an application under the Human Rights Code when they have experienced discrimination based on their age. Is the relative age effect discrimination, and is this case study an example of discrimination? While some researchers, mainly in sport-related fields, have referred to this relative age effect as systemic discrimination, the relative age effect is not recognized as discrimination under Ontario or any other province or territory law. Minors are not a protected class in this concern, and thus the parents of the students will not be able to argue discrimination if the case is escalated. If I was in Julio's place, and speaking from a non-HR and non-legal standpoint, I would say this case is not an example of discrimination, systemic, unintentional, or not. Whether the teachers were aware of their students' birthdays or not, or wanted to choose students with earlier birth dates, the elder students would have always had an advantage over the younger ones. Assuming the table from the earlier slide is reflective of the entire 11-year-old student population, that is all 1,000 boys and 1,000 girls, the chances of randomly picking a student with an earlier birth date is much greater than the opposite. The odds are in the elder students' favor, and it is unfair to younger students, but it is not discrimination. That being said, I do have several suggestions on behalf of Julio because this is an unfair situation. Suggest teachers reevaluate their students and not only assess which student would be a good candidate for the program, but also who shows interest in it. That would reduce the pool of possible workshop attendees. Be aware of birth dates. Group quarter 1 and quarter 4 students accordingly. And the next time the Metro School District and its individual classrooms are required to select students for something similar to the workshop, using a computer-run system or a third party to select students would remove any bias like the relative age effect. There is no chance of a computer program having any partiality, and a third party should be the same. So there are several things companies and organizations can do to rectify and prevent the effect of the relative age effect. This includes measuring it. The first step is to determine the scope of the problem. Make a list of all the children in the class and divide them into months of birth. Using this information and determine if the relative age effect will be a problem. Setting targets for your program in terms of the percentage of summer-born, winter-born, fall, or spring-born children you wish to include, and tracking this as a key performance indicator is a fantastic idea. Two, assign positions and roles based off skills and qualities, not age or birth date. Make sure every student gets to experience a variety of events and programs. And finally, increase the intake. A key issue for later board children is that they do not get a chance to join teams or excluded from programs like the one in discussion. Many teams and clubs select children by physiognomy, and typically they will be the most impressed by older children who may be physically more developed, have been in school longer, or seem more mature. The problem here is that many children who may potentially go on to achieve and enjoy great moments in academics and sport are excluded from the outset. So after the analysis, there are still some more questions we can ask ourselves pertaining to the relative age effect and discrimination. So should the age discrimination practice age restrictions be extended to those under 18? By doing so, it will affect how and which jobs teenagers can get, as well as gyms and fitness facilities in condos, apartments, and hotels that refuse entry to people under 16, retail stores that only allow a certain number of use at one time, and security guards and police officers who follow around youth or otherwise unfairly monitor them solely based on their age. And two, do we question the relative age effect enough? It dictates how children are chosen for sports and within academics and leads to exclusion of children born in younger months. Should more be done to rectify the relative age effects, or should it be mandatory for organizations, teams, and programs to have in place steps to prevent the relative age effect before it happens? The relative age effect can be beneficial in terms of sports, but adversary when it comes to academics. Thank you for watching.